There will come a moment in your life, maybe it's today, maybe it was yesterday, when you look in the mirror and the person staring back at you doesn't feel like you anymore. The fire has dimmed, the confidence has cracked. You say the right things in public, you smile when you must, but when it's just you, behind closed doors, the truth whispers, you're not who you thought you'd be. You should have done more by now. Maybe you've already missed your chance, and if that moment hasn't come yet, it will, because every human being who is meant to rise must first be broken by that voice. But hear me now, and hear me as if your future depends on it, because it does. That voice is not your destiny, that voice is not your truth, that voice is an echo of the lies you've repeated to yourself for years. And here's the astonishing part. If you change the way you talk to yourself for just 3 days, your entire life will begin to change. Not by luck, not by magic, but by law. The law of the mind, the law of habit, the law of identity. My dear friends, what you are about to discover today has transformed the lives of thousands. It's a simple technique so powerful, yet so overlooked, that when applied correctly for just 3 days, yes, merely 3 days, will begin to revolutionize your existence in ways you cannot yet imagine. I am speaking, of course, about the extraordinary power of self-talk. Each day, a battle rages within your mind. The thoughts you entertain, the words you speak to yourself, they are either building monuments to success or digging trenches of defeat. And yet, how many of you have truly mastered the art of speaking to yourself? Consider this fundamental truth. Your subconscious mind cannot differentiate between reality and vividly imagined thoughts. It accepts whatever you repeatedly tell it, whether beneficial or destructive. This, my friends, is the greatest secret of the ages, the key that unlocks the door to fortune, happiness, and achievement. I have studied the lives of more than 500 of the most successful individuals this world has known, and I can tell you with absolute certainty that not one achieved greatness without first mastering their internal dialogue. Andrew Carnegie, Thomas Edison, Henry Ford, these titans of industry and innovation, understood that before they could convince the world of their vision, they first had to convince themselves. Let me ask you directly, how do you speak to yourself when no one is listening? When you make a mistake, do you berate yourself with harsh criticism? When faced with opportunity, do you whisper limitations and doubts? These habitual patterns of self-talk are determining your destiny more decisively than any external circumstance ever could. For the next 3 days, I challenge you to revolutionize your self-talk. This isn't merely positive thinking, it's strategic mental conditioning that will reprogram your subconscious mind for extraordinary achievement. On the first day, you must eliminate all negative self-talk. Not reduce, eliminate it entirely. When the voice of doubt speaks, recognize it immediately and replace it with its positive counterpart. If you find yourself thinking, I can't afford this opportunity, immediately correct yourself. I am developing creative ways to finance this opportunity. If you catch yourself saying, this challenge is impossible, replace it with, I am finding innovative solutions to this temporary obstacle. This vigilant guard over your thoughts must be maintained with unwavering discipline. Every negative thought is a seed of failure planted in the fertile soil of your subconscious mind. You wouldn't knowingly consume poison, would you? Yet negative self-talk is precisely that, a poison to your greatest potential. Let me share with you the story of a young man I once counseled. He came to me in financial ruin. His business collapsed, his confidence shattered. When I asked him to recite his daily thoughts, they were filled with fears, doubts, and self-criticism. For 3 days, I had him write down every negative thought and immediately transform it into its positive equivalent. By the 3rd day, something remarkable happened. His entire countenance had changed. Within 30 days, he had secured new financial backing. Within a year, his business had not only recovered, but was thriving beyond his previous success. Was this mere coincidence? Absolutely not. This was the law of mental transformation at work. You see, your mind operates much like a garden. Thoughts are seeds. Plant seeds of failure, harvest failure. Plant seeds of success, harvest success. The choice of which seeds to plant has always been yours, though perhaps you've been planting unconsciously. During these 3 days of transformed self-talk, you must also begin each morning with a declaration of your definite purpose. These are not casual wishes or vague hopes. These are commanding statements that program your subconscious mind for achievement. Say on yourself, I, your name, am now attracting to me all that is necessary to achieve your specific goal by your deadline. My desire has transformed into a burning obsession that I will nurture through continuous action until it is manifested in reality. Speak these words with feeling. Empty words without emotional charge are merely empty vessels. Fill your declarations with absolute conviction. See your success as completed fact. Feel the emotions of achievement before the physical manifestation appears. This is not self-deception. This is deliberate mental creation. Everything created by human hands first existed as thought. The skyscrapers that define our city skylines, the automobiles that transport us, the very clothes you're wearing all began as ideas, as thoughts in someone's mind before they became tangible reality. The second essential element of your 3-day transformation involves not just eliminating negative self-talk, but actively speaking to yourself as the person you intend to become. Most individuals speak from their current circumstances. The masters of success speak from their desired future. If you aspire to wealth, you must speak to yourself as if you already possess the mindset of wealth. If you desire vibrant health, you must speak to yourself as if you already embody perfect health. Your present circumstances are merely the manifestation of past thinking. Your future circumstances will manifest from your current thinking. Consider the profound wisdom in this approach. When you speak as if your desired outcome is already achieved, you bypass the doubt, fear, and uncertainty that would otherwise paralyze your progress. Your subconscious mind begins to align all your actions, your decisions, your instincts toward the achievement of that reality. One of my most successful students practiced this technique with remarkable consistency. She was working as a secretary with aspirations of executive leadership. Each morning before work, she would look in the mirror and address herself as Vice President Johnson. She would congratulate herself on making excellent business decisions. She would thank her team for their exceptional work. Was this delusional? No, my friends, it was strategic mental conditioning. Within 18 months, she had received 2 promotions and was indeed functioning in an executive capacity. You must understand that words create emotional states, and emotional states determine actions, and actions determine results. By controlling your words, especially the words you speak to yourself, you control the entire chain of causation that leads to success or failure. The third component of your 3-day transformation requires you to eliminate all conversation about your limitations, problems, and doubts, not just internally, but externally as well. For these 3 days, you will not voice complaints, criticisms, or concerns to others. You will speak only in terms of solutions, opportunities, and definite plans. This discipline serves 2 critical purposes. First, it reinforces your positive internal dialogue. Second, it begins to change how others perceive you and respond to you. The world reflects back to us what we project. Project limitation, receive limitation. Project capability, receive opportunity. During these 3 days, when faced with problems, and problems will inevitably arise, train yourself to immediately ask empowering questions. What is the opportunity hidden within this challenge? How can I turn this situation to my advantage? What resources or allies could help me transform this obstacle into an advantage? This shift from problem-focused thinking to solution-focused thinking will revolutionize your experience of life. The successful individual is not one who experiences fewer problems. Rather, it is one who has developed the habit of finding advantages within every problem. Let me illustrate this principle with a story from my own experience. During the Great Depression, When many publishers were closing their doors, I was faced with the challenge of promoting my books in an economy where discretionary spending had nearly vanished. Rather than lamenting this obstacle, I asked myself, how can people's current financial struggles actually increase their need for my message? This question led to a complete repositioning of my work not as luxury items for the intellectually curious, but as essential tools for financial recovery and opportunity recognition during difficult times. This simple shift in thinking led to sustained success while others faltered. So for these 3 days, your task is threefold. Eliminate all negative self-talk. Speak to yourself as the person you intend to become, and refuse to discuss your limitations or problems with others. These 3 disciplines, practiced with unwavering commitment for just 72 hours, will begin a transformation that, if continued, will revolutionize every aspect of your existence. Now, my friends, let us delve deeper into this remarkable 3-day transformation. The principles I'm sharing with you are not academic theories. They are proven laws of mental science that have created fortunes and changed destinies. As you enter the 2nd day of this practice, you must understand that your mind is now in a vulnerable state of transition. The old patterns of negative thinking will fight desperately for survival. This resistance is normal and should be expected. In fact, it is a positive sign that real change is occurring. When I counsel individuals of great achievement potential, I warn them of this crucial period. You see, for years, perhaps decades, you have allowed certain thought patterns to dominate your consciousness. These patterns have created neural pathways in your brain, much like water flowing repeatedly over soil eventually creates a riverbed. Your thoughts naturally flow along these established channels. What we are doing in these 3 days is nothing less than redirecting the river of your thoughts. This requires mental energy, conscious attention, and unwavering persistence. The temptation to revert to familiar patterns will be strong. Recognize this as the final resistance before breakthrough. On this 2nd day, you must introduce another powerful element to your self-talk: gratitude. Begin and end your day by speaking aloud 10 specific things for which you are grateful. This practice accomplishes something remarkable within your psychological framework. It shifts your attention from what you lack to what you possess, from scarcity to abundance. This shift is not merely philosophical, it is neurological. Your reticular activating system, the part of your brain that filters information from your environment, begins to seek evidence that confirms your new focus on abundance. Where before you might have unconsciously gathered evidence of your limitations, you now begin gathering evidence of your blessings and opportunities. Speak to yourself. I am deeply grateful for my creative mind that finds solutions where others see only problems. I am thankful for my persistence that transforms temporary defeat into valuable lessons. I appreciate my growing network of allies who support my vision. This practice of gratitude-focused self-talk neutralizes the most dangerous enemies of achievement: envy and resentment. These toxic emotions have destroyed more potential success than perhaps any other factor. When you speak to yourself with genuine gratitude, you cannot simultaneously harbor resentment toward others' success. Let me share with you a profound truth that took me years to fully comprehend. The emotional state from which you take action determines the quality of that action. Actions taken from states of fear, anger, or desperation rarely produce desirable results. Actions taken from states of confidence, gratitude, and expectancy often yield remarkable outcomes. Your self-talk is the most reliable method for deliberately creating your emotional state. Master your self-talk. Master your emotions. Master your emotions. Master your actions. Master your actions. Master your results. This is the causal chain that leads unfailingly to achievement. During this 2nd day, whenever you encounter a decision, whether significant or seemingly trivial, pause and speak to yourself as a person of wisdom would. Ask yourself, what would the person I intend to become do in this situation? Then listen for the answer that rises from within. This practice connects you with what I call your other self. that higher intelligence within you that transcends your current limitations. Some call it intuition. Others call it divine guidance. Whatever name you give it, this faculty becomes increasingly available to those who speak to themselves with deliberate positivity and expectancy. Consider the experience of one of America's greatest inventors, who attributed his remarkable scientific discoveries not to superior education or intelligence, but to his habit of mentally conversing with what he called his invisible counselors. Before making any significant decision, he would close his eyes and discuss the matter with these imagined advisors, speaking both parts of the conversation aloud when in private. Was this merely fantasy? The results suggest otherwise. Through this practice of elevated self-talk, he accessed creative solutions that transformed entire industries. You possess this same capacity. The most successful individuals I have studied maintain this ongoing internal dialogue with their highest conception of themselves. They regularly ask, what would my best self do now? How would the person I'm becoming handle this challenge? What advice would I give to someone else in my position? This form of strategic self-talk creates a psychological distance between you and your problems, allowing you to access more creative and effective solutions. Rather than being emotionally entangled in your challenges, you rise above them, viewing them with the detached wisdom of a trusted advisor. Now, as you progress through this second day, you must also address the critical matter of your self-image. Your self-image, how you define yourselves, sets the boundaries of your achievement. You will never consistently perform beyond the limits of how you see yourself. Speak to yourself in terms of your desired identity, not your current circumstances. If you aspire to entrepreneurial success but currently work as an employee, begin referring to yourself in your private self-talk as a successful entrepreneur in training, rather than someone who wants to start a business someday. This subtle shift carries enormous power. The words I am are the most powerful in any language, for they define your identity. Whatever follows I am in your habitual self-talk eventually becomes your reality. For 3 days, monitor every thought that begins with I am and ensure it aligns with your highest vision for yourself. Replace disempowering identities with empowering ones. Instead of I am overwhelmed, say I am prioritizing what matters most. Instead of I am not good with money, say I am developing financial intelligence daily. Instead of I am too old, young for this opportunity, say I am bringing valuable perspective to this situation. These are not merely semantic differences, they are fundamentally different instructions to your subconscious mind, which takes everything you repeatedly tell it with absolute literalness. During these 3 transformative days, you must also address your self-talk regarding setbacks and mistakes. The average person speaks to themselves with harsh criticism when they err. This creates emotional states of shame and inadequacy, which paralyze effective action. The achiever, by contrast, speaks to themselves with constructive analysis when faced with setbacks. They ask, what can I learn from this? How can this temporary defeat serve my ultimate success? What adjustment will improve my approach next time? This form of analytical self-talk transforms failures from emotional wounds into strategic information. It keeps you moving forward where others would become demoralized and quit. I recall counseling a prominent business leader who had suffered a significant financial reversal. When we first met, his self-talk was saturated with self-condemnation. I'm a failure. I've let everyone down. I'll never recover from this. I prescribed a complete transformation of his internal dialogue. For 3 days, he was to speak to himself exclusively as a temporary steward of a valuable lesson, not as a failure, but as a student receiving precisely the education needed for his next level of success. By the 3rd day, his countenance had visibly changed. His posture straightened. His voice carried new authority. Within a week, he had formulated a recovery plan that his creditors readily accepted. Within a year, he had not only restored his previous position, but had exceeded it substantially. Was this mere psychological comfort? No, my friends, this was the practical application of mental law. When your self-talk changes, your perception changes. When your perception changes, your decisions change. When your decisions change, your actions change. When your actions change, your results change. This is the sequence that leads from defeat to victory. Let me now address another crucial aspect of your 3-day transformation, the language of possibility versus the language of limitation. Most individuals habitually speak to themselves in terms of what they cannot do, what resources they lack, what obstacles they face. This form of self-talk creates a psychology of constraint rather than possibility. For these 3 days, you must vigilantly eliminate all self-talk that focuses on limitations. Replace every statement of constraint with a statement of possibility. Instead of, "I don't have enough time," say, "I am allocating my time to highest value activities." Instead of, "I don't have the right connections," say, "I am attracting the exact allies needed for my success." Instead of, "I don't have enough education," say, "I am acquiring precisely the knowledge required through focused study and experience." This shift from limitation-focused to possibility-focused self-talk dramatically expands your perception of available options. When you tell yourself something is impossible, your mind obediently stops searching for solutions. When you tell yourself something is possible, your mind automatically begins generating creative approaches. During these 3 days, pay particular attention to your self-talk regarding your capability to influence circumstances. The average person speaks to themselves as if they are victims of conditions beyond their control. The achiever speaks to themselves as active creators of their circumstances. Listen for phrases in your internal dialogue like, "I have to," "I can't," "I must," or "I should." These phrases position you as controlled by external forces rather than as a self-determining agent. Replace them with, "I choose to," "I will," "I am," and "I create." This seemingly small adjustment creates a profound shift in your sense of personal power and agency. It reminds your subconscious mind that you are the active force in your own life and not a passive recipient of whatever circumstances happen to arise. As we approach the end of our 2nd day together, I want to address a question that naturally arises. How do I maintain this new pattern of self-talk when facing genuine difficulties or criticism from others? The answer lies in developing what I call mental immunity, a protective shield around your consciousness that prevents external negativity from corrupting your internal dialogue. For these 3 days, when you encounter negative opinions, criticism, or discouraging circumstances, speak to yourself immediately. I choose which thoughts to accept and which to reject. I grant entry only to those ideas that serve my higher purpose. This deliberate screening process prevents others' limitations from becoming own. Remember, the masses have always attempted to impose their fears and limitations upon the achiever. Your duty is to protect your mental garden from these invasive weeds of doubt and negativity. When others suggest you cannot achieve your goal, do not argue externally. Simply speak to yourself internally. They speak from their limitations, not mine. Their doubt has no power unless I accept it. I choose instead to maintain my faith and vision. This approach accomplishes two crucial objectives. It protects your valuable mental energy from being drained in fruitless argument, and it preserves the integrity of your positive self-talk pattern. As we conclude this second segment of our time together, I urge you to recognize the significance of what you are undertaking. These 3 days of transformed self-talk are not merely a psychological exercise, they represent nothing less than the deliberate reprogramming of your mental operating system. The patterns you establish during these 72 hours, if maintained, will begin generating new results with mathematical certainty. Just as water, heated to 212 degrees Fahrenheit, must boil no exception, so too must transformed thinking, maintained with persistence, produce transformed circumstances. With the dawn of the third day approaching, prepare yourself for the final and perhaps most powerful aspect of this practice, the language of absolute certainty and unwavering faith. This will be the capstone of your 3-day transformation. As we arrive at the third day of your mental transformation, you stand at the threshold of a remarkable breakthrough. The work you've done in eliminating negative self-talk and speaking as the person you intend to become has prepared the soil of your mind. Now we must plant the seeds of absolute certainty. On this third day, your self-talk must shift from possibility to inevitability. This subtle but powerful distinction represents the difference between hoping for success and claiming it as your rightful destiny. Speak to yourself in terms of absolute certainty. My success is not merely possible, it is inevitable. The achievement of my definite purpose is already an accomplished fact in the mental realm, now moving inexorably into physical expression. This language of certainty communicates to your subconscious mind that the question is not whether you will succeed, but merely when and how. This certainty eliminates the energy-draining effects of doubt and hesitation, directing all your mental and physical resources toward execution rather than deliberation. Consider how differently you would approach your daily activities if you knew with absolute certainty that your ultimate success guaranteed. Would you not work with greater enthusiasm? Would you not persist through temporary obstacles with unwavering determination? Would you not maintain your composure during periods of apparent failure or delay? This is precisely the psychological state we aim to create through this third day of transformed self-talk. By speaking to yourself with the language of certainty, you begin experiencing the emotional states of success before its physical manifestation. These emotional states then attract corresponding opportunities and inspire productive actions. I recall a young attorney I once counseled who was preparing for a case that seemed, by all external evidence, impossible to win. For 3 days before the trial, I instructed him to speak to himself exclusively as if the favorable verdict were already secured. Every morning, he would look in the mirror and say, "Congratulations on your brilliant presentation of the evidence. The jury clearly recognized the truth of your position." He would visualize the end result and speak to himself as if it had already occurred. I am grateful for the clarity and confidence with which I presented our case. Each point was delivered with precision and received with understanding. Was this self-deception? No, it was strategic mental preparation. When he entered that courtroom, he carried himself with the quiet confidence of someone who already knew the outcome. This affected everything: his tone of voice, his posture, the clarity of his thinking, and ultimately his effectiveness in presenting his case. He won what others had deemed an unwinnable situation. On this third day, you must also introduce another powerful dimension to your self-talk. speaking to yourself with the voice of your future self who has already achieved your goals. This creates a unique perspective that transcends your current limitations. Speak to yourself as if your future successful self is mentoring your present self. Remember this challenging period. Develop the strength and wisdom that made your later success possible. The obstacles you're facing today are developing precisely the skills you'll need tomorrow. This form of self-talk creates emotional resilience by framing current difficulties as necessary steps in your journey rather than as permanent barriers. It transforms your relationship with obstacles from frustration to appreciation. Throughout this third day, whenever you encounter fear, doubt, or hesitation, immediately speak to yourself. This temporary feeling has no authority over my actions. I acknowledge it, but I am governed by my purpose, not my emotions. This declaration establishes a crucial psychological distinction between experiencing an emotion and being controlled by it. The average person allows momentary feelings to determine their actions. Achiever acknowledges their emotions but acts based on their commitments and vision. Another powerful form of self-talk to implement on this third day involves what I call identity reinforcement. Throughout the day, repeatedly affirm to yourself, I am the kind of person who, followed by the specific qualities and behaviors that characterize your ideal self. I am the kind of person who keeps promises to myself. I am the kind of person who finds opportunity in every challenge. I am the kind of person who persists long after others have quit. I am the kind of person who contributes exceptional value in every situation. This practice shapes your self-concept at the deepest level. We all act in accordance with our fundamental identity, who we believe ourselves to be. By deliberately defining this identity through strategic self-talk, you establish the foundation for consistent action. Now, my friends, let me address a question that naturally arises. How do you maintain this transformed pattern of self-talk beyond these initial 3 days? The answer lies in creating what I call mental triggers, specific cues in your environment that remind you to consciously shape your self-talk. These triggers might include the moment your feet touch the floor each morning, every time you look in a mirror, before beginning each meal, when entering your workplace, before initiating any significant conversation, the last 5 minutes before sleep. At each of these trigger points, pause briefly and speak to yourself with deliberate positivity, authority, and certainty. This practice integrates your new pattern of self-talk into the fabric of your daily life, eventually transforming it from conscious discipline to unconscious habit. During these 3 days and beyond, you must also develop the practice of speaking to yourself with compassion when you temporarily revert to negative patterns. The perfectionist who berates themselves for every lapse ultimately abandons the entire practice. Achiever acknowledges missteps with constructive self-correction. I notice I slipped into old thought patterns. I now choose to resume my new way of thinking. This compassionate self-correction maintains your momentum where harsh self-criticism would create resistance and avoidance. Another powerful form of self-talk to implement during this third day involves speaking to yourself about the specific contribution you intend to make through your success. Most individuals speak to themselves primarily about what they hope to gain. The highest achievers speak to themselves about what they intend to give. Tell yourself, through my success, I am creating value for countless others. My achievement serves not merely my own interests, but advances the welfare of all who come in contact with my work. The rewards I receive are in direct proportion to the value I create. This service-oriented self-talk eliminates many of the psychological barriers to significant success. It resolves the subconscious conflict many feel about pursuing substantial achievement, wealth, or influence. When you speak to yourself primarily about contribution rather than acquisition, you align all aspects of your personality toward your goals. As we approach the conclusion of our 3 days together, I want to address what may be the most powerful form of self-talk yet. Questions. The questions you habitually ask yourself shape your focus and determine your results more profoundly than perhaps any other factor. Most individuals unconsciously ask themselves disempowering questions. Why does this always happen to me? What if I fail? Why can't I catch a break? These questions direct their mental focus toward problems rather than solutions, limitations rather than possibilities. For these 3 days and beyond, consciously transform the questions you ask yourself. Instead of, can I do this? Ask yourself, how can I do this? Instead of, will this work? Ask, how can I ensure this works? Instead of, why is this so difficult? Ask, what can I learn from this challenge? The difference is subtle, but the impact is profound. The brain automatically seeks answers to whatever questions you pose. By changing your questions, you change your focus. By changing your focus, you change your emotional state. By changing your emotional state, you change your actions. By changing your actions, you change your results. This principle became vividly clear to me through my work with a manufacturing executive who was facing the potential closure of his factory. When we first met, he was continually asking himself, how can I minimize the damage from this situation? This question presupposed failure and focused his attention on limitation rather than possibility. I instructed him to replace this question with, how can I transform this challenge into the greatest opportunity this company has ever seen? For 3 days, whenever the old question arose, he was to immediately substitute the new one and earnestly seek answers. By the 3rd day, he had identified a way to retool a portion of his factory to produce a related product with higher profit margins than their primary offering. Within 6 months, this emergency solution had become more profitable than the original business. Within 2 years, the company had expanded to 3 times its previous size. Was this mere coincidence? Absolutely not. This was the direct result of transformed self-talk leading to transformed perception, leading to transformed action, leading to transformed results. As we conclude our time together, I want to leave you with what may be the most important principle of self-talk: consistency. The effectiveness of this practice derives not from occasional implementation, but from unwavering repetition. The subconscious mind responds not to isolated instructions, but to consistent patterns. For these 3 days, make your transformed self-talk your highest priority. Monitor every thought with vigilant attention. Correct negative patterns immediately. Speak to yourself with the authority, certainty, and compassion of the person you intend to become. Then, as you experience the remarkable shifts that occur within just 72 hours, commit to maintaining this practice indefinitely. What begins as conscious discipline soon becomes unconscious habit. What initially requires effort eventually becomes your natural way of thinking. My friends, I have shared with you the very same principles that have transformed ordinary individuals into extraordinary achievers throughout history. The method is simple, though its application requires discipline. The investment is minimalist, 3 days of vigilant attention to your internal dialogue, yet the returns can span a lifetime. Imagine yourself 3 days from now having successfully implemented this practice. You stand straighter, your eyes reflect new confidence, your voice carries quiet authority, your mind generates solutions where previously you saw only problems. Your actions flow from inspiration rather than desperation. This transformation is not merely possible, it is inevitable when you apply these principles with persistence and faith. I challenge you now, begin immediately. Do not delay until circumstances are perfect. Do not wait until you feel ready. The very act of transforming your self-talk will create the readiness you seek. Speak to yourself today as the person you intend to become tomorrow. Tell yourself that you are equal to any challenge, capable of any achievement to which you commit with unwavering determination. Remind yourself that temporary defeat is not permanent failure. It is merely education in disguise. Tell yourself that your potential is limitless, your resources are abundant, and your success is certain. Speak these truths until they become your dominant thoughts. Hold these dominant thoughts until they generate dominant actions. Maintain these dominant actions until they produce dominant results. This, my friends, is the secret of the ages, the power of disciplined self-talk, maintained with unwavering persistence for just 3 days. Begin now and witness the transformation of your life.